Welcome to the King's Court Podcast. This is episode 5 tonight. Title of the podcast is going to be At the King's Table. I'm your host, King Roberto, and I'm here to tell you, not every podcast or story in the King's Court comes from the woods or the stadium. Some of the best ones start right here at the barbecue, the campfire, or the kitchen table. There's nothing like a barbecue to bring everybody together. The smell of the meat cooking on the grill or food on the burner inside. Food is something that, it brings everybody to a common place for a common reason. And as a family person, our kids grow up and get older and they start their own families and they get out on their own. And it's harder and harder to get them together. Well, nothing works as good as, hey, let's come over for a barbecue, to get the kids to want to come hang out for a couple hours. After all, they have kids of their own. They have families of their own. They have busy schedules. And when somebody's offering to cook food for them, almost always guaranteed to get them to come on over. Because the fastest way to your child's heart is through their stomach, whether they admit it or not. A hug is great. A noogie once in a while for the boys, always a good thing, but feed them and it'll keep them coming back forever and ever. Now there is a point where that's too far. You see, when they are growing and they have not fledged the nest yet, they have not launched on their own, you're trying to get them to get out there and do that. So in an essence, you try to take the food away. Sometimes it works, sometimes they starve. But they figure out that food is an important staple in life, and they need it. And if you got a family like I do, with a bunch of growing kids and growing people and big people in them, you'll find out that they eat food a lot. If you've raised boys, you know this is true. There is not enough snacks in the house for a boy. If you have multiple boys, well, your grocery budget needs to grow with the boys as they're growing. I come from a family of 3 boys, so my mom did not have it easy shopping. We shopped for 2 boys and 3 girls while they were growing up. Anymore, we shop for the 2 of us, and somehow we managed to eat more groceries now than we did before when the kids were home. It's a crazy thing. But if you want to get the family together, I'll go back to it again. A barbecue is a great way to do it. Family, friends, you name it. If there's food involved, people will come over. It seems like every barbecue has 2 things. Somebody bragging about their ribs, and somebody pretending to like them. And I can't tell you how true that is. And people who come to my barbecues, they always get the best ribs, or the best cut of meat, or tri-tip, or prime rib, whatever it might be that's on the grill. I made the move from propane grill to the pellet grill a few years ago. A friend of mine was moving out of state, which I'm still mad at him for. But he did it anyways. He did not consult me. And they moved. Well, they were not wanting to move their pellet grill back with them. They ended up in Tennessee. So he said, hey, King Roberto, because that's what my friends call me, is King Roberto, among many other things, depending on their mood and the day, and if they're losing to me at fantasy football or not that moment. But he said, King Roberto, I have a pellet grill that I need to get rid of. Would you like it? And I said, absolutely. Never used one before, but I'll figure it out. So the pellet grill is my grill of choice. It is a Cabela's model, and it's not the big one. It's a good sized grill. Big enough for what I need to grill on it. And so when I was learning how to use the grill, I have to look up the recipes because it's a little bit different. It's a smoker and it puts off smoke and stuff like that. So I have to figure out how to use it. And I thought it'd be fun one year when everybody was coming over for one of the holiday dinners. I don't remember what one it was, but we wanted to make a prime rib. I have not cooked a prime rib before, and I certainly hadn't cooked one on a pellet grill. So I figured it out, and I thought that I had it timed correctly. But if you know, prime rib on a smoker, on a slow cooker like that, it takes time. You have to cook it at a 225, 250 degrees for 4, 5, 6 hours, depending on the weight of it. And as much as I want to be able to tell you that my mathematical prowess at calculating the amount of time required for a prime rib to hit the grill when you're smoking it or cooking it on the pellet grill like that is spot on, no, it wasn't that day. The prime rib finished probably an hour and a half after everything else was ready. We were supposed to eat dinner at 5. We ate dinner at 6:30. There were mashed potatoes, green beans, macaroni. There's all sorts of other stuff to go with it, and everybody's waiting for the prime rib. But that doesn't always happen, and over the years, it has got better. Now, the bonus to that, though, is that everybody's around, hanging out, talking, visiting, socializing. So we get to spend time with our kids and friends when that sort of thing happens. And admittedly, it doesn't happen much anymore. Got pretty good at timing the grill and figuring out how long to have stuff on it, and it turns out pretty good most of the time. But after the grill is put away and things move on, the kids go home and we're left on our own again. And so we go to our second favorite place to socialize around and hang out with our friends, and that is the campfire. In the backyard, we have a fire pit set up, and that fire pit is where the cigars get smoked and the whiskey gets drank and the stories get told when we can convince somebody to take the drive out to our house to hang out with us. And there's been some good times around that fire pit. The other fire pit, of course, is out at the campsites, and we've had some fun with those as well. We generally go together, my wife and I, when we go out camping. But sometimes we get friends who go out with us too, and that's always a good time. We've learned that there's a couple of fun games that you can play on your cell phone, that you can download the game. It's called, I think the one we last played was Taboo. And they have different packs you can buy for the games. It's kind of like Cards Against Humanity, but it's on your phone. And it's a lot of fun, actually. We spent some time laughing over that one the last time because we did the boys against the girls. And it was Greg and I with Teresa and Nikki playing. Nikki's my wife. Greg and Teresa are our friends. But anyways, you guys don't know that unless you know Greg and Teresa and you happen to be watching this or listening to this and you know them and like, oh, I know them. Those are my friends too. Or those are those crazy people that I don't know where they came from. Anyways, yeah, there's some fun times around the campfire that we've had. The most fun I got to tell you around the campfire was the last time we went camping. We had our youngest daughter with us, and we went up to Eagle Lakes up here in Northern California, and around the campfire pit there was a ring, and then a ring inside it was the campfire pit. Well, between the two rings was a gap of maybe a couple of inches. This is a Forest Service campfire area. So what had happened is in this little gap there was a chipmunk that fell in between the two pieces of campfire ring. And the dog was going crazy. And we're like, what on earth are you barking at, dog? Why? This is a campfire. And he was just sitting there growling and, running around the campfire pit. And we're not any wiser as to what's going on. But he knew something was in there. And sure enough, we looked down. My youngest daughter and I looked down and in between the rings. And there's this little chipmunk staring back up at us. You're like, I don't know how to get out of here. So, what do? We get a stick and we try to coax him along to climb the stick and climb out of the ring or do something like that. I mean, it's a chipmunk, and there was not a lacking of chipmunks at this campsite that we were at. But this particular chipmunk decided to get stuck in there. So we worked on it and worked on it for, close to 5 minutes around the campfire pit there, and we did not understand why this thing couldn't get out, but eventually it decided it would just jump out of the ring on its own, which it did. And the ring was probably 12 inches, 16 inches out of the ground, and this chipmunk after we spent 5 minutes with the stick trying to get it out of the ring. And my wife is in here watching us, just laughing at us, thinks we're the, bunch of couple of idiots out there. And then the dog, when the chipmunk got out, the dog thinks it's a toy. And so immediately the chipmunk gets out of the fire pit ring and runs for the tree, and the dog is on it. And the dog is, he was on the chipmunk. And of course the chipmunk got away, but later on that trip, the dog actually caught a chipmunk. Now he's a hunting dog, so he knows that if he's got something in his mouth, he's not going to just chomp down on it and try to get it to bleed and kill it and do stuff like that. He's actually got a very soft mouth, which he's been trained for not to do that, and he knows that if he would do something like that, he would be in big trouble. So he's got a very soft mouth, and it was one of the moments that I wish I had my phone with me and had the camera open, just waiting for what is this dog going to do next. Because he comes over and he grabs a chipmunk, and I call him out, Rooster, get over here. And he's got a chipmunk in his mouth. He's got the tail hanging out one side and the head hanging out the other. And this chipmunk is just squealing away. And here's Rooster just thinking he's the king dog, right? He's got the chipmunk in his mouth. So I'm sitting there and I got to open his mouth, because he knew that the chipmunk was going to run away if he let him go. And he wanted to play with the chipmunk, but he didn't want to kill the chipmunk. He just wanted to play with him. He needs a friend. We've talked about getting him a friend, but we're just not ready yet. So the chipmunk is going to have to do. So he got to enjoy the chipmunk for all of about a minute. And then open his mouth, chipmunk scurries away, jumps from the mouth, hits the tree, and the chipmunk's gone. So the rest of that camping trip, the dog was going crazy trying to find the chipmunk and trying to catch him again. He thought that he got one so he could get, another one, no problem. But we really enjoyed that camping trip because, again, we were around the campfire and we had our youngest daughter with us, and we don't necessarily get to have her with us with that undivided attention all the time. And admittedly, it's a little more glamping when we go camping anymore. It's not out in the tent like it used to be. I mean, we went when the kids were young, and we didn't have, the King's Lair trailer. We went out in the tent like everybody else does, I'm sure. And we have a nice tent. I still got the tent. It's 15 years old, but it's a good tent. It's a good Cabela's tent. And if Cabela's is listening, I'm dropping the Cabela's name. You can shoot me some sponsorship money or ads or whatever. But yeah, the Cabela's gear is good. We got the Cabela's tent. It was a 9-man tent, and we had a family of 5, 4 eventually because of the first divorce. But that's a different story for a different day. And we would go camping in the summer, and some of the best and worst memories happened along that camping trip. There was one year that we went up north, up the coast to Elk Creek and the redwoods and stuff, and had quite the adventure around the campfire. The first one we got to was a lot of fun. There was no cell service though, and if you have teenage daughters, that going someplace with no cell service, and I didn't know it then, but I know now, well, that is a bad plan. That's not a good idea. That is a bad idea. And let me tell you, I found out the hard way just how bad that idea could be. It was not fun, but we had up until it wasn't fun, we were having a good time. We went up to Agate Beach and found all the shiny rocks on the beach. Kids really enjoyed that. And then looking at the redwoods, checking out the redwoods, we ended up at Elk Creek campsite there with all the Roosevelt elk that are up that way. And we got to see them, and we walked down to the beach, and there's the trails through, and the kids and I walked down there and had a really good time. It was a really fun trip. It was a long trip. It was 11 days. We left on a Friday, and we got back on, I think, a Monday or something like that. Might have been 10 days. It was a long camping trip though, but we were trying to get a lot of sites in out there, and I that was probably the last camping trip that I had all three kids with me that we all went camping on. But again, that time around the campfire, um, you just can't replace that. We would start the fire and we would roast the marshmallows and the s'mores, and we would talk and have fun and have a good time. And they lose track of that, over time. That kind of it's a wave. You hit the high when they're 8, 9, 7, 8, 9 years old, and they think that mom and dad are the world. And then that teenage time goes, and when mom and dad are not the world anymore, and then it comes back around, and mom and dad are the world. So the campfires, the camping trips, and everything else, you get a lot of those when they're younger, and then you lose them for a little bit, and then they get older, and they come back as the barbecues in the afternoon, the Sunday afternoon get-togethers, and stuff like that. But campfires are where everything grows antlers, right? Even the fishtails get big antlers at the campfires. Everything is bigger at a campfire when you're out there doing that. And then the last place that we seem to have a lot of fun discussions at is in the kitchen, at the kitchen table. And I know that other families out there are the same way. And I hope that my kids with their families, they enjoy the kitchen time as much as I did when I had it with them. There's a part of you that, as you're trying to move them out of the house, they have to learn how to cook, or they're not going to survive. And they will either figure out how to cook or they won't. The microwave is good for a lot of stuff, but it's an expensive way to eat. So you got to learn some recipes and how to cook for yourself and all that stuff. And then the kitchen becomes a lot of fun because while you're watching somebody cook in there, you can be talking to them. Or where the cook is cooking, they can be talking to you. And it's usually sitting around the table and stuff like that. And even without a table, we took a family vacation to Oceanside, and it was a pretty busy trip. But we had times that were down times, and one of the most fun evenings of that entire trip was when everybody was just in the kitchen telling stories about life and how it was happening, because I had both of my older daughters and their husbands were with them. My middle daughter was pregnant at the time, so she was dealing with morning sickness and stuff like that. And we had my son, who was fishing all the time, and caught a needlefish. Actually, one of the days he was there, this thing was the wildest fish, but ran it from the beach to the deck, and ended up, the fish died because he was out of the water too long. But he wanted to show everybody the needlefish that he got, and this thing was doing the tail walking and stuff like that. And the needlefish was really cool. We got pictures of it to verify that it really happened, and that it wasn't a 10-foot long needlefish. It was probably 3 feet long though. He's not going to be able to tell fish stories about it and how huge and how big it was, but he will be able to tell the fish stories about how hard it fought and how it was. He was out on a paddleboard in the middle of the ocean. It was absolutely ridiculous. I cannot believe that he did that, but then again, I can. And that just adds to the kitchen table conversations and talks, because he went down to the pier and would catch fish and bring fish back, and ended up cooking fish up at 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night one night, because he wanted to cook up the fish that he caught while he was fishing down there. But some of the most fun times we had was in that little house. We were down on the beach and around that kitchen with the kids, all just talking and laughing about stories around the kitchen bar there, and talking to each other. And that's just something that I really appreciate now that I didn't necessarily appreciate when I was younger and the kids were little. But as we get older and our kids grow and the families grow and they move away, they're supposed to move away. And 3 of the 5 have. I mean, 3 of the 5 have moved away, and they do good. And when we have a barbecue, they come back. But then when the barbecue's over, they go back to their place, which is how it's ultimately supposed to work. There's a couple that come and stay, and when we have a barbecue, they go back to their bedroom. And I'm working on that one. So they've got to figure out that they need to actually go. So that'll come in time, but the barbecues with them are not quite as enjoyable because when it's at home and you're living at home and you have a barbecue at home, it's just like another night. Mom and dad are cooking dinner for you and it happens to be a barbecue. And oh, look, my brothers and sisters are over, but I would rather not engage with them right now because I'm at home and there's no reason for me to engage with people that I'm at home with. And, it's this whole thing. So it's actually quite a dynamic to pay attention to and be a part of. But it is interesting. It is fun. I have a great family. I wouldn't trade it for the world. We have friends that come over. Like I said, we have the barbecue pit on the back lawn, and it's a lawn. It's not a real lawn. Took the dive and went for the fake grass on this one because I wasn't going to mow any more lawn, and I didn't want to pay my landscaper to mow any more lawn. So we put the fake lawn in. But we have some fun up there. I mean, there's some good stories that have happened up that one, and that's where we smoke the cigars. My wife even smokes a cigar now and then. I've kind of got her onto that. She likes the chocolatey ones that taste good with wine. If you've ever had a cigar with wine, I have not, but I will take your word for it that it's a good thing. And if it brings us together, which is what the whole point of all of this is to bring you and your loved ones and the family together and your friends together. There's ways to do it. Food, barbecues, campfires. That's all that you really need. And it will get most people there. Even people who don't do it normally on their own. If you get a bonfire, that's even better. You're going to get even more people that want to come to bonfires. But if you tell somebody, hey, we're going to have a fire tonight, come on over, have a drink, have some snacks, maybe smoke a cigar, or just hang out and let's tell some stories around the fire pit, that is 100% guaranteed to be a good time. If you have somebody who wants to hang out and likes to barbecue, Sunday afternoon barbecues, especially during football season, home runs, definitely encourage those because, they're only 17 weeks of the year plus the playoffs. So there's plenty of built-in opportunity there for you. And that's really why it matters, right? The whole idea between all of this is create an environment where everybody can connect. We live in such a busy world at a fast pace, and electronics here, electronics there, cell phones, computers, everything else is going on. For everybody to just sit down for a short time, maybe an hour, maybe 2 if you're lucky, but maybe you only get 5 minutes of undivided attention disconnected from everything else, all the distractions. But that is the part that I know I enjoy the most, is just being able to, even if you don't talk, if you just listen to other people talking, you get to connect with that person. And the connection is what makes us stronger. And here at the King's Court, I'll give you a royal decree here. Here at the King's Court, the table is sacred. If you've got a seat, you've got a voice. Every person matters at the King's Court. No matter who you are, how big, how young, how small, how tall, everybody matters. We have a 1-year-old in the family now, not quite one, 10-month-old in the family now who is walking, which is absolutely wild. But, and we have a 5-year-old in the family now who's not only walking, she's talking and jibber-jabbering, and she's becoming her own little person. But when we can get together with all of them for the food, the story, the laughter, and the wisdom, it all belongs at the same table. And you don't have to bring anything to a barbecue if you're invited. I mean, it's polite to offer to bring something, but if they say, no, we got everything, you don't need to bring everything, just bring yourself. At least when the barbecue's done, Maybe offer to do the dishes or take out the trash or do something other to display some gratitude and appreciation for the hosts. So just remember, the best stories are shared. They're not kept to yourself. They're not made just by yourself most of the time. Although there are some solo stories that are pretty good stories, but find somebody to share those stories with. Invite them over. Have a campfire, have a cookout, have a barbecue, maybe a chili cook-off, which we've been known to host once or twice, which will be coming up again in a few weeks here, and we will have an episode about that one. But the next episode that we're going to talk about is back to the competition theme. We have some set themes here at the King's Court. You know, the family, we have the competition, we have building the empire, we have the outdoors and the hunt and the games, and then we have the podcast and the behind the scenes and the man behind the myth and the legend, which is yours truly, who you're getting to know right now. So give me your favorite barbecue, campfire, kitchen table story. Send it in. Send me an email, therealkingroberto@gmail.com. Send me a DM on Instagram or X, whatever it might be. Reply to a short on YouTube if you're watching this on YouTube, because next week we are heading into that quarter competition again, where we can talk a little about rivalries, trash talks, and the kind of, bad bets that only friends can forgive. So, yeah, come back for that one. If you like the podcast, if you got feedback, I encourage you to subscribe now. Click the subscribe button. They are coming out on Wednesdays. Early in the morning it gets posted, and they'll be there for you. If you have feedback, want to tell me how great I am or how terrible I am, one or the other, I'd love to hear from whoever's listening to this thing. It gets downloaded right now, maybe 20 times a week. So somebody's out there listening. So let me know who you are. Tell me what you think. And with that, I will catch you on the next episode. Peace. Adios. Goodbye. Sayonara.